Why nothing feels real anymore. The unnamed feeling. There is a feeling a lot of people have, but almost no one talks about. It's not sadness. It's not anxiety. It's not even confusion. It's the sense that life doesn't feel real anymore. Days pass, but they don't leave a mark. Conversations happen, but they don't go anywhere. Events occur, but they don't feel grounded in anything solid. You are doing the things you are supposed to do. Working, talking, showing up. But it feels like you are watching yourself do them. Like you are slightly removed from your own life. Most people don't say this out loud because they are afraid it means something is wrong with them. That they are losing touch. That they are broken. They are not. This feeling has a cause. And it's not personal. It's environmental. Reality feels unreal when it's constantly interrupted. When attention is pulled in 10 directions at once. When nothing at all is allowed to settle. When experiences don't have time to become meaningful. Most people don't say this out loud because they are afraid it means something is wrong with them. That they are losing touch. That they are broken. They are not. This feeling has a cause, and it's not personal. It's environmental. Reality feels unreal when it is constantly interrupted, when attention is pulled in 10 directions at once, when nothing is allowed to settle, when experiences don't have time to become meaningful before the next one arrives. Human beings weren't designed to live inside constant abstraction. We were designed to live inside direct experience, touch, presence, continuity. But modern life rarely gives us continuity. It gives us fragments, moments without connection, information without context, emotion without processing. So life starts to feel thin, like it's happening on the surface instead of somewhere deep. People describe this as numbness, or fog, or dissociation, but those words make it sound clinical. What it really is disconnection, not from reality itself, but from meaningful reality. When nothing is given enough time to matter, nothing at all feels real. And the mind responds by pulling back. Not because it's malfunctioning, but because it is overwhelmed. This is why people say they feel like they are just going through the motions. Why memories blur. Why time feels distorted. Why joy feels muted and pain feels strangely distant. This episode is about naming that feeling. Not to dramatize it, not to diagnose it, but to explain it. Because once you understand why reality feels unreal, you can begin to feel present again. Life at the speed of abstraction. To understand why nothing feels real anymore, you have to understand what kind of world we are living inside. Modern life doesn't happen at the level of direct experience. It happens at the level of abstraction. You don't experience events. You experience representation of events. Screens, headlines, summaries, opinions about opinions. You don't encounter people. You encounter profiles, avatars, usernames, curated versions of lives. And your mind is forced to move at the speed of all of it. Human beings were never designed to live this way. Reality, as the nervous system understands it, is slow. It unfolds through continuity, through cause and effect, through time spent inside something long enough for it to leave a trace. Abstraction strips that away. It removes weight. It removes consequence. It removes depth. When everything is reduced to symbols and summaries, nothing lands fully. Think about it. You can witness tragedy from across the world in seconds, then immediately switch to entertainment, then to work, then to personal messages. Your mind is asked to care deeply and then forget instantly. Over and over, that constant switching breaks the chain of experience. Nothing completes, nothing resolves, nothing settles. So the mind stops fully entering things. It stays slightly detached, protective, observing rather than inhabiting. This is not a failure of attention. It's a survival adaptation. When the mind is forced to process more than it can integrate, it pulls back. It flattens experience. It dulls sensation. It creates distance. That distance is what people describe as unreality. Life feels thin because you are not inside it. You are skimming across it. And abstraction accelerates time. Days blur because nothing anchors them. Memories fade because nothing was held long enough to even become meaningful. Conversation feels hollow because it's interrupted. Work feels unreal because it's fragmented. Even pleasure feels empty because it's consumed quickly and discarded just as fast. Abstraction trains the mind to move on before presence forms. And presence is what makes life feel real. Without presence, experience loses texture. Emotion loses weight. Time loses shape. This is why people say they feel like life is passing them by even while they are busy. They're moving fast but arriving nowhere. Modern life rewards speed, efficiency, adaptability, but the human soul requires something else. It requires slowness, continuity, depth. It requires staying inside something long enough for it to matter. When life is lived at the speed of abstraction, reality begins to dissolve. Not because it isn't there, but because you are never fully present long enough to inhabit it. And until that changes, no amount of simulation or stimulation will make life feel real again. Why attention fractures reality? Reality depends on attention, not intelligence, not information. Attention. Whatever you give sustained attention comes real to you. Whatever you cannot stay with long enough begins to feel unreal. For most of human history, attention was stable. Life unfolded in consequences, and life unfolded in sequences. You started something, you stayed inside. You finished it. Work hard. Work had a beginning and an end. Conversations lasted. Silence existed. There was time for meaning to form. Now attention is constantly interrupted. Not occasionally, constantly. Before a thought completes, something else arrives. Before a feeling settles, something pulls you away. Before an experience integrates, another one replaces it. This does something subtle but profound. It fractures reality because reality is not built from moments. It is built from continuity, from staying with something long enough for it to leave an imprint. Interruption prevents imprint. When attention is fractured, experience becomes shallow, not because it lacks importance, but because it lacks duration. Think about memory. Memories are not created by novelty alone. They are created by presence, by repetition, by emotional engagement over time. When attention keeps jumping, memories don't consolidate. This is why days blur together. This is why weeks disappear. This is why people struggle to remember what they did yesterday, but can recall events from years ago when life moved slower. Attention is the doorway through which reality enters the mind. When that doorway is constantly opening and closing, nothing fully comes in. So the mind adapts. It stops opening the door all the way. It stays half closed, detached, observing rather than inhabiting. This detachment is not indifference, it's protection. The nervous system learns that fully entering experience is too costly. Too many demands, too many pulls, too many unfinished threads. So it holds back. That holding back is what people describe as feeling unreal, like life is happening one step away, like you're present but not there. And this doesn't just affect perception, it affects judgment. When attention is fractured, everything feels equally important or equally meaningless. Urgent things crowd out important ones. Noise overwhelms signal. Emotion replaces understanding. This is why people feel overwhelmed when nothing is technically wrong. Their attention has no hierarchy. Everything is competing. Nothing is prioritized. So the mind remains tense, always bracing, always scanning, always slightly anxious, because attention never lands. And where attention never lands, reality never stabilizes. This is also why people feel disconnected from their own lives. They are present physically, but mentally scattered, emotionally fragmented, spiritually thin. They do many things, but inhabit none of them. Even relationships suffer. Conversation becomes shallow when attention drifts. Listening becomes partial. Presence becomes performative. People feel lonely, not because they lack contact, but because contact lacks depth. Depth requires attention, and attention requires limits. This is the part modern culture resists. Limit feels restrictive, but without limits, attention cannot settle. And without settled attention, nothing feels real. This is why people say they want to feel alive again. They don't mean excitement, they mean presence. They want to feel here, not distracted, not fragmented, not pulled apart. And here's the quiet truth. Reality doesn't disappear because the world changes. It disappears because attention is never allowed to rest inside it. Rebuilding reality doesn't start with stimulation. It starts with sustained attention, staying with one thing long enough for it to matter. Until attention stabilizes, reality will continue to feel unreal. Emotional overload versus emotional numbness. One of the strangest parts of modern life is how people swing between extremes. Some days everything feels like too much. Too much emotion, too much information, too much noise, too much pressure. Other days nothing seems to register at all. You feel flat, detached, numb. People assume these are opposites. They are absolutely not. They are two sides of the same response. The nervous system can only handle so much stimulation. When it's overwhelmed, it has two options: hyperactivation or shutdown. Emotional overload is what happens when the system is flooded but still trying to respond. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels intense. Small things feel catastrophic. Your emotions spike quickly and take a long time to settle. Emotional numbness is what happens when the system decides it can't keep doing that. So it pulls the plug. It dulls sensation. It flattens feeling. It creates distance. Not because you don't care, but because caring has become too costly. This is why people say they feel emotionally exhausted. They're not broken, they're adaptive. Their nervous systems are trying to protect them from constant overload. Modern life rarely allows emotion to complete its cycle. You feel something, you are interrupted, you move on. No resolution, no integration. So emotions pile up, unprocessed, stacked, until the system can't hold them anymore. That's when the swings begin. Too much feeling, then none. Intensity, then emptiness. People often blame themselves for this. They think they are unstable, dramatic, emotionally immature. They are not. They're living inside conditions that never allow emotional rest. A healthy emotional life requires rhythm, feeling, expression, resolution, rest. Modern life interrupts that rhythm constantly. So the system improvises. Overreaction, shutdown, back and forth. This is why people feel confused by their own reactions, why they don't recognize themselves, why they say things like, "I don't know why I reacted that way. It's not my character, it's capacity." When capacity is exceeded, control decreases. And the cruel irony is this: the more overwhelmed people feel, the more they are told to manage their emotions better. As if discipline alone can solve overload. But you cannot regulate what is constantly being flooded. You cannot stabilize what is never allowed to settle. This is why numbness is not healing. It is a pause button, a temporary measure. And this is why constant intensity is not passion. It is strain. A healthy emotional life is not dramatic. It is steady. It allows feeling without drowning and distance without disconnection. Rebuilding that steadiness does not start with emotion. It starts with your environment, with reducing overload, with restoring rhythm, with creating spaces where emotions can finish what they start. Until that happens, people will keep swinging, not because they are unstable, not because stability has not been made possible. Understanding this does something important. It removes shame. It replaces self-blame with clarity. And clarity is the first step towards steadiness. Why depth is disappearing? When people say nothing feels real anymore, what they often mean is this: nothing feels deep anymore. Conversations stay on the surface. Relationships feel thin. Work feels transactional. Faith feels abstract. Even moments that should matter pass too quickly to take root. Depth doesn't disappear suddenly. It erodes slowly, quietly. Depth requires three things modern life rarely allows: time, attention, commitment. Without time, nothing develops. Without attention, nothing settles. Without commitment, nothing deepens. So everything stays shallow. People talk, but they don't linger. They listen, but only partially. They connect, but briefly, and then they move on. This affects relationships. First, real intimacy requires shared time without interruption. It requires presence that isn't competing with something else. When attention is divided, connection weakens. People feel unseen even when they're together. This is why loneliness exists even inside relationships. It's not the absence of people, it's the absence of depth. Work suffers the same way. When work is fragmented, it stops feeling meaningful. Task replaced craft. Metrics replace mastery. Speed replaces care. People do their jobs, but they don't inhabit them. So work feels unreal, not because it lacks value, but because it lacks coherence. Faith is affected too. Faith requires stillness, reflection, silence, continuity. When life never slows down, faith becomes conceptual, something you think about, not something you live inside. And concepts alone cannot carry the weight of life. Conversation itself changes. People speak more, but say less, because depth requires listening without planning a response. It requires vulnerability, risk, staying with discomfort in long enough for truth to surface. Modern conversation avoids this. It favors speed, certainty, performance. So dialogue collapses into opinion, and opinion is not depth. It's position. Depth makes people patient. Shallowness makes people reactive. Depth allows disagreement without hostility. Shallowness turns difference into threat. This is why everything feels fragile. Not because people are worse, but because depth has been removed from the conditions of life. Depth doesn't thrive in constant motion. It requires staying. Staying in conversations, staying in relationships, staying in responsibilities, staying in commitments after novelty fades. This is why people feel something essential is missing. They are surrounded by stimulation, but starving for substance. Depth cannot be optimized. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be multitasked. It emerges slowly when attention is protected and commitment is honored. And when depth disappears, life begins to feel unreal. Not because it lacks activity, but because it lacks weight. And weight is what makes things feel real. How reality is rebuilt. If reality can feel unreal, it can also be rebuilt. Not all at once, not dramatically, but deliberately. Reality doesn't return through stimulation. It returns through presence, through choosing to stay with fewer things more fully. The first step is slowing the rate of input, not withdrawing from life, but reducing interruption, creating spaces where nothing new arises for a while. No notifications, no background noise, no constant checking. The nervous system needs unbroken time to settle back into reality. The second step is embodiment. Reality is not an idea. It's physical. It's felt. Touch, movement, breath. Being fully present in your body anchors you back into the moment. This is why walking helps, why working with your hands helps, why sitting still and breathing slowly helps. They return you to direct experience. The third step is continuity, doing the same small thing at the same times. Eating regularly, sleeping regularly, working in focused blocks, seeing the same people. Continuity rebuilds trust. It tells the mind that life has structure again. The fourth step is commitment, not endless options, not constant flexibility. Choosing something and staying with it. A relationship, a responsibility, a practice. Commitment gives experience a future, and a future gives experience weight. The fifth step is attention, not multitasking, not half presence, full attention to one thing at a time, listening without interruption, working without checking, being with people without drifting away. Attention is what makes life feel solid again. And finally, there is meaning. Meaning is not invented. It is discovered through responsibility and truth. When you live in alignment with what you believe matters, reality stabilizes because your actions begin to cohere. Your days connect. Your life stops feeling fragmented. This is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming present. Reality doesn't demand intensity. It demands sincerity. It doesn't require constant engagement. It requires honest participation. When people say they want life to feel real again, this is what they mean. They want to feel grounded in something solid, something continuous, something meaningful. Reality returns when attention settles, commitment deepens, and life regains structure. That process is quiet. It doesn't trend, but it works. And it is available to anyone willing to slow down and stay. What it means to be here again. Being here again doesn't mean everything suddenly feels easy. It doesn't mean life becomes exciting or dramatic or constantly fulfilling. It means something quieter. You begin to feel located. Your days stop blurring quiet so much. Moments begin to leave a trace. Conversation linger instead of disappearing. You start to notice where you are while you are there. Being here again means your attention rests instead of racing. It means you are no longer watching yourself live your life from a distance. You are inside it. Not perfectly, not all the time, but enough for things to matter again. You feel weight return to ordinary moments. Work feels real because effort connects to outcome. People feel real because presence replaces performance. Time feels real because continuity replaces interruption. Being here again doesn't require escape. It requires honesty. It requires choosing depth over speed, commitment over endless options, attention over distraction. And when you live that way, even quietly, something stabilizes. The world may still feel chaotic, uncertain, unfinished, but you are no longer floating inside it. You are standing somewhere solid, and from that place, life doesn't have to be loud to be real. Thank you. Transforming people's lives, the Kingdom Sanctuary of Eden and Outreach Ministries. With our clothing bins all over, we're collecting clothes and shoes and giving it out to all in the communities, in the cities, and all over the world. Wherever there is a need, the Kingdom Sanctuary of Eden is there to fulfill it. Please continue all your donations, whether it be clothes, food, shoes, or monetary donations, so we can take care of God's people all over the world. The donation starts with you. Let's build the kingdom together.